this episode of the Schbang In It is a very special one because we've got a guy who's won multiple awards at the Cannes Ad Fest. Right from the gold line to the Grand Prix to the glass line. It's a pleasure to host Josy Paul on the Schbang In It. What you will love about this podcast is particularly if you're a creative soul, if you're somebody who's entered this business or entered any creative business really, I think you'll find a lot that resonates with what he says. And it was such a privilege to just kind of get some of those perspectives. So if you're looking for something that boxes things and says that okay, this is a prescriptive to do, this episode isn't for you. But if you really want to kind of feel what it means to live a creative life, you're going to love this episode. And I hope you enjoy it. Welcome, Josy, and such a pleasure to be able to talk to you about this. So I have lots of questions. So I'm going to.
Me too.
No,
yes,
so the rule is that I ask the questions on this one because
I'm
I'm the student who's learning.
Oh my God.
And through me, I hope that because I've always been really when you speak, there's a lot of sparks that come out. So I hope that people feel that through this episode. That's really going to be the agenda.
I'll try.
And so actually, my first question is this. As you there's so many young people in advertising, and what you do now with your career is you actually straddle two worlds. You straddle the world of Indian advertising and you straddle the world of international advertising.
Yeah.
Because you're working with so many projects with the global network and things like that. So what's really the big difference between the two?
Great question, Harshil. I think for me, I don't see the difference at all. In fact, I get a lot of energy from the work we do in India. I feel that there is no such thing as global. There's only this little spot where you sit, because everything's coming from you as an individual, and it's what's going on in your head.
Got it.
Or with your life or your environment or your context. And so it is you're the walking context, and so I don't separate these things.
Got it.
Whatever has affected me, I try to spill it out, and often it is connected to everyone else because I'm not alone, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the same world as you are.
Yeah.
So I don't see any difference.
So maybe let me put it this way, is there anything that through your travels that you've learned, which is worth saying that, okay, there's a couple of these things which I think if a lot of people were able to bring into their lives, it would be cool.
Right, yeah. So one of the things I've learned, and through the work actually, is that not everybody gets everything we do. And there are things that are common, and there are things that are so diverse that it's very different from what people experience. Like when we did Touch the Pickle for Whisper, which is a campaign that won the Grand Prix. The reason we won it is because we were able to explain to the whole world what this hyper-local idea is about and where it's coming from. So what I learned through this global experience is that how do you reach out to a larger world that may not fully understand who you are and where you live? And often they thank you for that. They thank you for having become the bridge. I found more people have reached out to me because I'm the bridge rather than because I was creative. People want relevance. They want connection.
Right.
They don't want your creativity. They just want to understand the other side. And I think that global experiences allowed me to understand and empathize with what people want across the world.
So it's interesting, this idea of forming connections.
Yeah.
And this other idea of like being more human, if you may, more common platform. So, what is it that makes you, what is it that you practice in your craft that helps you form these connections or like helps you be more human?
Again, fantastic question. See, these are very deep questions, and I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
why I'm
if
asking them,
everyone
yeah.
will get it.
Yeah.
It's very soft, these things, because you're not taught about these things in school or college. It's just when you listen, it's like if you met somebody for the first time and you really are trying to understand that person and you're interested in that person, maybe romantically or not, or just because you like that person as a friend, you tend to want to know more, right? So you're listening. And for me, that deep listening is what allows me to connect.
So that deep listening to the consumer or the
And
deep
therefore,
listening
deep
to...
listening to the consumer. It's the same thing. If I'm meeting a stranger in a train and we've got 9 hours to kill, there's deep listening happening. It's the same thing with the consumer. So you form that bond because of that deep listening. And through that deep listening, you know where you connect and where you don't connect. And that process, whether it's the stranger in the train or the consumer who's out there, the involvement or the engagement is the same. You just are excited to know what's going on. So that curiosity creates the curiosity and attention gives the connection.
Got it. And it's interesting you talk about the bridge between the world and India.
Yeah.
In a sense, what advertising is also bridge between the consumer and product.
Yeah.
And that's why this connection is so important.
Yes.
But it's great that you use the word deep listening. Can you talk a little bit more about this process of deep listening? How does one really deep listen? Because it's an easy word to say.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to understand. So can you help me break it down a bit? What is this deep listening?
So deep listening is where you become irrelevant as a human being and you have thrown and surrendered yourself to what the other person is going through or wants to share. Whether it's a mass consumer or whether it's an individual person. And the reason I say stranger in the train is because of one early experience of mine. When the wall came down in Berlin, I was drawn to it. So I just went like a guy who wanted to touch history. And I remember returning from Berlin, and I went with no understanding of Germany or German or even having a ticket. I just had a ticket to Frankfurt. But coming from Berlin to Frankfurt in the train, it was an empty train, and this young lady came, and she was scared looking at me because because my color and all that. And she passed the coupe where I was sitting, and then she came back because the entire compartment was empty. So now she needed company. She was scared. So it was about 6 in the evening, and the light was fading. So she sat opposite me, even though I'm a stranger. She just wanted someone, And then I tried speaking to her in English. She couldn't speak English. But something happened. I was just trying to listen to her story. Like, why did she go to the other side, to East Berlin, when the wall came down? And through very broken German and English and whatever she could muster, just actions, she told me that mother and father were separated and the mother was on the other side. And she had met her mother for the first time after years. And that whole thing was very cathartic for her. And I could understand even without the words. And it was quite a sort of breakdown or breakthrough experience for me because it had never happened to me in my life. And I understood that I could understand and that I was listening and that listening moved me. So I said, this is brilliant, man. It was one of the most electric experiences I've had where someone tells you a story through language that you don't fully get it, but you get the meaning and the feeling. And for me, from that day onwards, I began to listen to people, and I found amazing stories. And I said, wow, I'm in this business of communication, and these stories are going to be useful for people. So that's all I did then. I became like a collector of stories. That's
nice. And when you collect a good story, what do you do?
I don't write it down. I don't say I'm going to use it or nothing of that. I'm just listening. It stays in you.
And it comes out.
And it comes out. It's like magic. It's like a gift or something. Suddenly you just remember, and that's something I've never understood. Why that happens. Somewhere when there's a discussion and people are saying things, hey, sorry, I remember this. And it opens the gates. Often it opens the gates. It solves things.
Do you feel like the maybe younger people in our business today, they're listening less to consumers? You think that I mean, it's become more of a scientific process as opposed to a, like a more, you use the word surrender, which is an interesting word, So you feel like we need to go a little bit back to that and.
No, I mean, Harshil, to be honest, I would not. It's very difficult to compare. Everyone's so unique and the world's changing, and that change creates its own kaleidoscopic sort of pattern. And we must embrace that. So maybe there's a different way of listening that is there. Listening won't go away. It's how you listen. You might find a different way of listening. Today, people can do 2 or 3 things and they're still listening. It doesn't mean they're not. But they just have to be aware that listening is happening. That's all. That it's not wasted time.
Got it.
And yeah, so there might be new ways of listening. And we talk about data and data management. And data management is also listening. It's a more aggressive form of listening. It's a more sort of, it's not an intuitive form of listening. It's like pushing itself into your life a bit. And so we feel that the balance is important. The whole emotional data, which is really deep listening, and the big data, which is about, things that we find.
So mix.
Yeah, you mix that well, and how you play that is very important. That's why everything is important. There's no old and new. It's all of it.
Yeah. That's amazing. And, there was also, you spoke to me last time a little bit about how you tap into deep listening even in the online world. You spoke about the comments in music videos and, are there any such, so tell me a little bit about those comments in the music videos and, why you would listen to that. And if there's any such other things that you do which really gets you to the human truth of people.
Yeah, that's a great question again, Harshil, because these are all, I don't know if these are techniques or these are just organic, curious ways to try and make sense of the world.
Yeah.
I think in the end, it's just you trying to make sense of the world. It's not even you set to yourself, you're going to listen to make something happen through creativity or advertising or communication. The deeper thing is, I want to know more. I want to know what's going on. Why did I rush to Berlin? I had no reason to. I had no money virtually. I mean, I really scraped it out. But I had to do it. It was my curiosity. It drew me there. So some of the I don't want to use soft techniques, or whatever you call it, is whenever I've seen, songs on YouTube, I tend to go to the comments section because I'm more interested in the follower than the leader. For me, the follower is telling you amazing things because the follower, when he or she hears a song, wants to say something. The song is not just a song, it's a platform for individuals to express themselves because they see themselves in that song, right?
Yeah.
The song is a variation of yourself, which is why the song became so big in the first place. Yeah. And that's what a hit song is, because it's not hit because it's a hit song. It's a hit because hit something in you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then I look
at. That's
a
great line. Huh? That's one for keeping.
So when you read the comments now, you get so deep into what people's confessions are. And you realize where we are similar and where we are different, and it gives me a lot of energy. So I steal energy from the comments. I steal energy from followers of music because it's like a crowd watching a YouTube concert, right? You can either watch YouTube or you can watch the fans, and from them you may probably get more because they are more equal to you than the star. So your ability to borrow from them is greater, So I tend to get energy from the comments. And then, of course, there are other ways of listening too, which is something I've mentioned to you before. It could be just us or in our office, for example, whoever is available. It doesn't matter whether you're in which department. That's all fluid. Departments are old corporate language, industrial language of the 40s and 50s and 60s. I think in a creative world, there's no such thing as departments. Those are all thrust upon us. So I question all these things. And we bring people together and we say, okay, let's talk about one subject. Say things. Let's talk about things. Why do you buy things? And the reason I'm asking is because we've got to crack a solution for eBay, which is into e-commerce and they're selling you stuff, right? So why do you buy things? And then say about 15 people are around the table. Some are from admin, somebody's from, HR, some couple of guys from the creative department or whatever. And everyone's sitting there and they're talking about stuff, why they buy. In the beginning, it's like very cool and brand and all that stuff. And then slowly it starts getting deeper. And then just through the conversations, you try and find out a little more. You said that, why did you say this? I don't even know what happens. It's just curiosity, like I said. And then things started to get deeper. It goes beyond the veneer of trying to be cool to the truth. And in the truth, things come out. And then somebody says, you know why I buy things? Because my grandmother always wanted a girl. Always wanted a boy, sorry. My grandmother always wanted a boy. But I, as a girl, can buy more things than a boy. So I buy things to show her that I'm better than any guy. And then everybody begins to cry. Like, why is everyone crying? Like, what happened? And then before you know it, everyone's telling you deeper stuff. And then there's all these nuggets of gold that come out from human beings. And our planning people are taking notes, even though they don't feel they should take notes, because this is therapy, man. This was never advertising. But from those nuggets, beautiful things emerge. And the campaign we did for eBay was things don't judge. A skipping rope doesn't judge if you're 80 years old. A ring does not judge if you are of the same sex, a wedding ring. Or a diya doesn't judge if you're Hindu or Muslim. So this was what we created, and it said we have 100 million things that don't judge. So suddenly we gave the brand a purpose. More than that, we found a purpose to ourselves. So every discovery changes us. So we wonder if we're in advertising sometimes, because we are finding new stuff. And that's what deep listening is, I suppose.
I have two questions coming out of this. The second one I'll ask you to answer second, which is that, how did you turn out this way? Because obviously, there's a lot of depth to this and there's a journey. So I want to go into that. But my first question is more to do with, in a lot of the work that you do, like this work that you spoke about things don't judge, or if it's about touch the pickle, or if it's about share the load. A lot of the work that you do is very impactful in the sense that it touches people at deep levels. And then there's also the work sometimes that we have to do, which is not so impactful, and some of us sometimes get disillusioned by that work. Saying that, hey, I'm just selling Ariel to a lot of people. So, what's your advice, or what's your take on that? Because you're not always going to be able to do this at the, I wish the world was such that we could only do this.
No, it's a very important question, especially when you start out and somewhere in the middle as well. There are 2 points where you get disillusioned. Somewhere when you're early 20s and you're not sure what's happening and you've gone excitedly into the business and found this is not what I want. And then there is a time when you're like in the age group of around 35, 40 and you feel ki, something's not right. These are I find these 2 points. But for me, it's not happened. And everyone said that you're going to burn out the way you're going, Josy. By 35, 40, you're finished. It didn't happen to me. Sorry, I'm not boasting. I'll tell you why. Because I never came into this business for the business. For me, it was always about a calling. It was not about a job or a career or any of that. It was to live a creative life. And that turned into a more empathetic life. And so every time the world changed, I changed with it. So I was always in the flow. So I wasn't trying to control anything.
Got it.
And so because I wasn't trying to control anything and I had no fixed notions there's no frustration. Frustrations is because of resistance. And I'm not saying we should not resist. Of course, there's ego and there's all these other things that make you say, this is it, I don't believe. That's great. I mean, I have principles, values, but principles and values are meant to be perennial. They're meant to be free-flowing. They're a guide. They're not a stone, you know. So I found that by having a calling, by finding my true, what do I want to do with myself? I found it very early in life, which I think I'm very fortunate about because of all the shit I went through early in the first 3-4 years. I think that, you know, unsteady early days allowed me to find my mission, you know, which I happened to write in a diary when I was going through shit. And then 10 years later, I found that diary. And it was in the attic of my dad's house. And when he was going to clean it, he said, I'm throwing away all your journals. And I found this. And I'd written in that journal to create an environment so fertile that even if you were to sow a seed of doubt, it would flower into something beautiful. When I found that is when I started this agency called David, you know, for WPP, because I felt David Ogilvy had chosen the wrong end of his name, like he had chosen Ogilvy, and it's a great agency, but it's a name. While David is not just a name, it's an ideology. It's about challenge. It's about enjoying
David
the world.
versus Goliath.
David versus Goliath and all that. So it gave me a lot of purpose then. And I found that whatever shit happens in work, people call you all kinds of things. They take away your account. They strip you of things. That goal is so sharp. You don't feel it anymore, you know. And every day you go through the things that people go through, which is rejection, embarrassment, your work is seen as failure. But because you got something you can see like a North Star, you're following the star, man. And the star is so bright, like this light, that you know, you don't see the shit around you. It's hitting you, but you don't see it because you know where you want to go. It's like when Tendulkar said, you know, when the ball comes at me, I don't see a cricket ball. I see something bigger than a football. And that is focus. His focus is so strong. You can't see the 80,000 guys who are screaming in the stadium. You can't hear the sounds of all the people who are watching him on TV. You can only see the ball. And the ball is larger than a football.
So what's that equivalent for a creative person? What's that creative person got to see?
The creative person is that got to have an ideal that says, I will find the next thing, man. It's there waiting for me. And it doesn't matter what this is. You have to go through it. You have to go through the shit. It is a given. And we are not taught that in school or college because everyone's fighting to be number one and everyone's fighting in a competitive race to just successes in, like if you're on the top 3 students in a class. That's not the answer. The answer is that you will fail. You will fail and you will have pain. And embrace it and enjoy it because you won't get what you want till you go through it. There's no easy answer. There's no easy way. Don't think you're going to get it. You will fail. So if you're taught you will fail and embrace failure and enjoy it and make it a friend, then all this frustrations that we get because something is not approved or we're doing 100 social posts over this 10 months and we haven't done anything else and everyone complains, that's all I've done in this 10 months, I'm frustrated. Say, boss, that's fine, man. We're in jail. You know, create great things in jail too. It'll come to use after. Nothing is wasted. So people are not able to perhaps see that light, this light. And they're just focusing on the crap that comes in the way. So you have to have something bigger, man. I don't think I've answered your question.
No, you have. I'm just trying to get into, you know, because like it's an esoteric concept.
It is very esoteric. It's
an esoteric concept.
Yeah.
It's very personal. So, you know what, I think the Tendulkar analogy is great that, you know, I see a football because that's what I care about. So like for the advertising person, that big idea and really that is what I care about, and they're not going to come every day.
Yeah, they're not going to come every day. He has failed many times, yeah. He's been, rebuked, and people have made statements about him, whatever. But he kept seeing the ball. He kept, he didn't see that, So,
this light, there's the other point which you raise about living a creative life.
yeah.
Which is that you said, I submit myself to living a creative life. So, one is that it happens in your job.
Yeah.
Do you do stuff outside your job to fuel that living of the creative life?
I don't do anything specific. I mean, I just know that I will question everything that people tell me, and that's the way I live my creative life. I don't accept. I accept and I don't accept, meaning I question as well. So for me, fighting any authoritative action or behavior is a form of living a creative life. When someone says, hey, this is the best place on earth, sure, but there are other places. This is the best food on earth, or if someone makes very strong statements about anything, I say, hang on, man. Like to myself, I'm not going to accept anyone saying this is it. Whether it's a TV channel or it's a YouTube thing or whatever, I'm going to seek it for myself, because I find that is so exciting, man. You're the most exciting thing that can happen, right? So questioning, I think your blood flows a lot more, right? It's like adrenaline, and like I have a tremor, man. I don't know where it came from. I can't. It's like nervous thing. It's unstoppable. I can't stop. It's maybe just the natural thing, And again, I'm talking esoteric. But what was the question? Yeah.
No, I said, what is it? Stuff that you do outside of the.
It's all like it's even now,
it's life.
right? Yeah, it's life. It's even now. I don't know what you're going to ask me, but I've surrendered to you. I believe in Harshil. I trust him. I love what he does. Whatever he asks me will always be good. And I then don't come with preconceived answers. I try to surprise myself with the moment. So for me, the moment is most important. The moment is creativity. The moment is it. That is your creative self. Yeah. If you've come with your past or you're worried about the future, the moment doesn't exist, and you've lost that creativity, I think. So in a way, spontaneity is creativity as well. And that's why when people are super spontaneous, they go red in the face. They say, shit, what did I just say? They didn't. I never thought I would say that. Those are most creative. That's when you're living a creative life,
Talking about spontaneity, is there something you did in your early days which was like super spontaneous, which led you to down this path?
Yeah, I think almost everything I've done has got me into a bit of trouble, actually. But it has been a bit on the spot. And I tell the story of how I was a trainee in Ogilvy. And I had to go to this client with my first piece of work that was already shot and finished. And the producer director didn't come with me, nor did my seniors. They assumed that it's a first presentation to the younger junior guys in that client. But when I went there were like 15 people in the room, including the marketing chief. And I'm with this other trainee account person. We're two guys going to present this important work. And we couldn't believe this entire crowd is there. And I showed the work film, and they all nodded like this, like it's not happening. And I realized this is not a good thing for me, and it's not that I went through this, I just realized something's wrong. It's not going to work. So just my body moved. I don't even know how. It's just I rushed to the window and I threatened to jump if they don't approve the work. I said, this is my first piece of work. If you do this, you're affecting my career. And so it created complete chaos in that room. I don't think they'd had that experience, right? You're used to proper corporate behavior, and there's a man who feels like a jungle, and the marketing guy, chief, told everyone to leave the room. And it was just between him and me now. And he walked gingerly towards me because I was on the windowsill. Now the thing is, I looked out. It was not a big fall. It was the first floor, so there was some bushes. So I knew I could take a chance. So it was at one point it became calculated, but that instinct of jumping was. And then he said, "I love your passion, son." He said, "Son, I love your passion." That's interesting. You use that word, huh? I realize the power of words. And then he said, "Just step down. Give me a chance. You haven't given me a chance. You go back. Let me think about it." And now again, it's about tone. His tone was genuine. I felt he felt. And so I left. And we went back to the office, and there at the lift, my chief creative officer, Suresh Malik, was waiting for me. And I said, "Why is he waiting for me?" And he held me by my ear, man. And he took me around the office. And everyone's looking, why? And then he took me to his office, around the office, and then took me to his room and said, "Josy, I've got a call from the client. They've approved your work. They don't want to see you again." So these things are not in one's control. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the whole thing about living in the moment, right? You're always willing to lose, I think. And that's how you probably sort of find new things. You can't find new things if you're not willing to lose.
That's amazing. And, there's also, so living in the moment, in the space that you created at your office, you call it the ashram. And, I'm assuming there's a thought now. So there's all of this from your experiences, you're living in the moment. All of that is come together to build the workspace that you built. You choose to call it the ashram. Why is that so? And like, how is that evolved? Because you spoke a little bit about David, and you spoke about ashram. I mean, I'm putting that point of ashram, and then there's the two. So how has life changed? Is it more a reflection of the time, or is it a reflection of you?
That's again a brilliant question, because it's creative living is really about personal evolution, right? It's you're evolving as a person, and your experiences are evolving with you, and now you're resonating with new experiences, and through surrender, by letting yourself go, you're letting time and space and context take you. Now, when I left David, I didn't want to hang on to. I mean, when David broke up, I didn't want to hang on to that. I said, that was beautiful, that was great. I've got to get rid of it. Even though it was magical, it can't be the present. It's over. So I let myself go. And then when Ajay and I were trying to understand what should this new agency that we've started be all about, Ajay Jala, my partner and CEO, we happened to go to Ahmedabad for a client pitch or discussion. And we had 5 hours to kill. So we sat at Sabarmati, because I had never been to Sabarmati. And when I sat there in the ashram, Ajay and I just was so zapped by all the writings and statements and recordings. And we said, this Mahatma Gandhi is just the most amazing guy for communication. He was talking to diverse people in this country, everybody not homogeneous at all, with enough factions, and yet he used action to connect with all of them, because he probably thought that by just using words, he may not connect all of India. So he used actions, and that's when we said, hey, let's start an ashram, and let's call it about create acts, not ads. And Mahatma Gandhi is our creative director. So it's this mad thought that, and the whole notion of community building society versus individuals building society was something that connected with us.
And where is the ashram going now? As we go into this 2020 world, and how is that evolving?
So that's again a beautiful point, because I think the ashram is fluid, and you got to again connect with where the world is going. And we feel that we've already got the DNA in us. We've not accidentally, but like organically. And that DNA is all our work. If you look at all our work, There's deep listening, as you said. There's emotional data. And there is a feminine energy. And we feel that feminine energy is now increasing in this world and needs to increase in this world. And we're not talking about gender, we're talking about feminine energy. So it can be in a man, woman, any gender. And our work has that feminine energy. And the concept of an ashram is feminine energy. And we're trying to see how the ashram, our understanding of emotional data in people and how it can be converted into communication, and this DNA of feminine energy is what is resonating with the world. So let's see where that goes.
Got it.
So it's a bit broad. Again, it's so, I don't know if everyone's getting my language because I speak too broadly and I speak like, it doesn't sound like advertising or professionalism.
Those who get it, they're lucky, So that's how
because it's not, there's no professional words in my speech.
Yeah.
And I know that. And I know nothing feels like anything in what I'm saying. So people connect if they connect,
Yeah. And, just as we see now, earlier there was, creativity was kind of, it was the conduit to unleash it was the advertising agency.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
That's why when you said, I will lead a creative life,
Yeah.
the agency was a kind of
Conduit.
obvious choice
Yeah.
to do that. I mean, if you were doing it today, then what would you, to lead a creative life, how would you be leading it?
It's a question that can't be answered just like that, man. It's a very important question, and I don't have a rational answer yet. But I know that it won't be anything like before, because it's just amazing what's happening in the world. The way media is working, the way news is working, the way all our social channels are working. And somewhere somebody needs an orchestrator, Someone needs somebody who can get to the soul of that collective. So individually they all have souls, but the collective of that, people are still groping, I feel. We don't know where the Ganges and the Saraswati and the others come together in this. Where's the point of confluence where all media and all of them can come and somebody is conducting it? I feel if I could be with people in that center, it would be great. Because then everything coexists at that point. I want to be at that point, that change point where everything's meeting.
Got it. And, I think my last question is more on this idea of, so as I reflect back on this conversation, there's a few things that you've left behind, so I'll try to put it in boxes for maybe some of the listeners.
You're being my bridge now.
Yeah,
so thank you.
So I feel like, there's this bit of deep listening that you've spoken about, which is really about connecting with people and being the bridge between, particularly for advertisers or even for creators, being the bridge between, the message and what people feel.
Yeah.
So really bringing that. I loved also what you said about the hit song. It's a hit when it's not when it hits a lot of people, but when it hits inside. So I think that bit of building bridges and deep listening is something that's very strong. This other idea that you spoke about, creativity is spontaneity. So it's in the moment. And, how can you really live within that moment? I think so there's some good lessons in that, because you might be like switched off at certain times in life, and then when you're in that moment, that's when you're switched on and you're just in it. So and you're talking about right now this movement of the world towards more feminine energy, which is also an interesting point, because I take that point with a lot of respect, because you are a feeler. You are not the even for the users, or for the listeners who are listening, often you'll get on a conversation like this, you'll get guys who will tell you specifics. But I think what is unique about you is that you're a feeler. So there's fewer of those. But you can gauge, okay, this is where it's going, and therefore this confluence that you're talking about, I think it's a great point also, that so many schools of creativity now there, and the confluence of it being there to create something magical is what you would see yourself at. But maybe other people would see themselves in, being the Saraswati or the Ganga or the Sabarmati, So, so that I think is interesting, But I think also what's perennial with what you're saying is this idea of surrender.
Yeah.
So when you spoke to that lady in Berlin, or this you kind of surrendered at the windowsill also.
Yes.
So when you do surrender, when somebody has to surrender, what are some of the things that you've seen in yourself? This blocks me from surrendering, and this is how I really surrender.
I think what stops you from surrendering is designation. Your notion of your role, the concept of leadership, media, and all the strange lights that are put on you that make you feel now you got to play a role, and you got to mimic an external sort of box that has been put on you. And so you play into that box. But surrender is when it comes from completely within, like we spoke about deep listening. It's about such powerful letting go that you become a new person at that moment. Say, shit, I didn't know I had this. It's like when people say, fear gives you wings. It's that ability to do it to yourself, where now you don't care what people think about you. At that moment, what you're feeling is so powerful that the external forces cannot box you. And that feeling, that ability to be mindful and feel what you feel and be able to say it without even knowing you're saying it. It's like your mouth's moving and words are coming and you're saying, shit, I'm saying these things. Like that girl who said, my grandmother always wanted a boy. I don't think she ever thought she would say that. And she said it. And later on, I was concerned and I was telling people, I hope you guys don't feel that we made you say things. No, we want to say more. We feel free, so that feeling free.
And sorry, I know I said last, but I have now a couple of more. As I'm seeing this, this mindset developing, and as you're unraveling your mind, who were or what were some of the deep influences for you to reach where you are at? So if somebody had to go back and follow some of those deep influences, would there be a few that you
many yeah. I mean, you're an influence to me, Harshil. I think it's
that's kind of you.
Yeah. No, so many people who meet you, the people who make you and the people who break you, both are important to your influence, right? It's not just the guys who said the right thing, but often the people if I just close my eyes and I think about my college days in Xavier's and my experiences in the college and the events that happened when I was there, which shook me as a a person who was very formative in those years. I would give a lot of it to that, both the mindfulness and the ability to feel, as well as the creative scientific inquiry that Xavier's taught me. They gave me both the creativity as well as the science. And I'm not saying they're separate.
You're a physicist.
I studied physics, and I'm not saying science is devoid of creativity. It is, in fact, probably more creative because you're constantly trying to project and hypothesize about the world. And then use science and experiments and maths to try and see if that's true. So that was something. Xavier's a big influence. But once I got into the real world of advertising and work, Suresh Malik, the guy who hired me because I had no portfolio, and when I met him, my hands were shaking because I have a natural tremor. He said, "You don't have to be nervous." And I remember he's saying that, and I don't know what happened spontaneously off the moment. I said, "It's not nervousness. It's creative energy. It's creative vibrance." And he laughed and gave me the job, man. It's like that guy's faith in that 1 second to say, okay, this is good enough for me. This is my portfolio. This is my evidence. And he gave me the job. And for someone to take that call, I think I owe a lot to him. And then I got called by a guy called Kersi Katrak, who is supposed to be the Bill Bernbach of advertising. I mean, people rank him that way, along with Alec Padamsi. These two guys invited me to go from copywriter to creative director at Lintas in the late 80s, which I think was something no one had ever thought anyone could get that kind of a triple or more jump, you know. It's just some blind faith in conversations. Kersi met me, he liked what I was saying. I had some work from Ogilvy which he loved. And he said, I mean, you're not a copywriter, you're a creative director. And he gave me that job, yeah. And the HR guys broke out and they said, it's not possible. And they said, we can't give you the letter and stuff like that. But the decision was made. And he gave me this simple thing. He said, I can't give you much money, but I can give you the freedom to fail. And the freedom to fail, I think that was the moment when my life changed. So if there was one moment when a person changed their life, that was the moment. Because I stood first in school. And my parents were, like all other conservative parents, interested in the well-being of their children, like all parents, not just conservative, any parent. And so they really drove me to do well in studies. But here was a guy telling me to do the opposite. He said, I give you the freedom to fail. It's like, where does this come from? You know, like I'd never heard those words. And that's when I went berserk. After that, there was no looking back, Harshil. I just, with my partner Neville, we began to do work that just, people say, how did this happen? And they don't know. It's the spring sometimes is so you don't realize the significance of something that feels just a couple of words. You know, it is the song. So in a way, that's a I give you the freedom to fail is a song, even though it's one line. It's a forever song.
Yeah. Yeah. And finally, you know, as you spend so much time with people, you know, you spoke about being the bridge with India. As you spend so much time with people all over the world, clients, advertisers,
creative,
creative people, what is seen as India's place in the world right now?
I think people are looking to India because they feel that India has so much going on and people are so bright and there's so much color in our patterns. It's just everyone wants to be here, to be honest, because they feel that they can create great things in this country by the influence. I don't know if they want to stay in the country, but they feel that if they touch the country, they will go back rich. I can see that, which is why more and more people reach out to people like us. I'm sure they reach out to you, Harshil, and you've spoken about it. So I think India is being seen as this laboratory of creativity, culture, and everything that represents excitement, you know, like that represents new discovery, that represents rejuvenation of an individual. It's all of that. I can feel it. People are curious, and one can easily be a bridge. You know, I can just be the bridge and collect all these guys and give them bhashan. I don't want to do that because I feel I'm not that. I can do it, but that's not what I want. But I can feel that everyone wants a piece of India. They want that.
Got it. And sorry, I still have one more but this is the last one, which is, you're also seeing outside in the world of creativity, the emergence of artificial intelligence. So you have now an artificial intelligence which is able to write pieces of copy, which is able to design an ad. Japanese are working on saying that, okay, we've seen how a director thinks and we'll be able to film how a director thinks. So, where's that world of creativity headed according to you? I mean, like, with this happening, what's going to be the role of the human being? And, there is, I mean, how are you reading all of this, which is happening?
No, I mean, I think everything coexists. See, the thing is, because I've studied physics, the thing that fascinated me most in physics was the concept of duality. That light is both wave and particle. And I've seen that in our own lives. We may say one thing at one point and say another thing at another point. And we don't have to hold a grudge for that, because that's the nature of the world, the yin and yang. So you can live in contradictory worlds, or you can live with two parallel things going on at the same time. And I'm excited if there's an AI running alongside us doing stuff, so that we can learn from that, and we'll evolve too. So it's not competition.
Yeah.
It's influence. For me, it's always about influence and inspiration. It was never about competition.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
for all of
Harshil.
that.
Thanks for bringing out words that I never knew.
Yeah, that's always a good pleasure of speaking with you. That often,
I have no idea what you're going to do.
I'm going to revel in the spontaneity. So today I got a chance to be sitting in the spotlight with the spontaneity. So it was fun. Thank you.
Thanks so much, man. I'm thankful to you, because I didn't know I have this shit inside me. So thanks for that. Yeah.